We'll bring in Kellyanne Conway, counselor to the president. Kellyanne, Brett was just talking about the James Comey tweet. This, for the folks who do not follow you on Twitter, you tweeted this out yesterday. Congratulations, President Donald Trump. Today you won the 2016 election all over again and got a gift for the 2020 election. They'll never get you because they never get you. You wrote.
I did. And those who let this lie fly for 2 years, haranguing and harassing and trying to embarrass and worse those of us connected to the 2016 campaign, beginning with the president and his own family, really do owe America an apology. But more importantly, they never legitimized him as president because they never saw it coming. And those who have now spent 22 months wasting their time, really 2.5 years since the day he was elected, are now running out of time for 2020. They've made Donald Trump look like the victim here because he has been the victim here. And let me be very specific about certain individuals. The head of the Democratic National Committee, Tom Perez, and let me quote him. He said repeatedly that there is, quote, mountain of evidence of collusion between the campaign and the Russians. This is a man whose own DNC, along with Hillary Clinton's campaign, first funded that phony dossier that got us to where we are. Then you have Adam Schiff. Talk about an oxymoron. This man heads the Intelligence Committee in the House. He said, quote, he believed that the scandal was of a size and a scope probably bigger than Watergate and that there's plenty of evidence of collusion. He ought to resign today. He's been on every TV show 50 times a day for practically the last 2 years, promising Americans that this president would either be impeached. But
Kellyanne, he's a politician. That's what politicians do.
Oh, no, I'm sorry. But talk about collusion. They have been aided and abetted. That's right. That's what politicians do. And my tweet last night saying they'll never get you, President Trump, because they don't get you. The get you part is how he got elected. The non-politician disruptor. Americans didn't want business as usual. But think of all the time and money that has been wasted, not just on this investigation, which is the second most expensive investigation by day since the special counsel was created 40 years ago. But think about all the people who are suffering from drug addiction, who couldn't get the media to cover on the greatest scourge of our times. Think about all the people languishing in prison who were ignored even though this president put forth criminal justice reform. Think about all the property owners and taxpayers and small business owners who don't know that the deregulation is there to help them. People ran around basically calling the president of the United States a Russian asset or a Russian agent. And
John Brennan in particular. John Brennan in particular.
Now listen, many TV lawyers, many people letting the lie fly.
Do you think the president, as talked about today in Axios, according to their sources, is going out for vengeance and will call for some people in the media to be fired?
I talked to the president very late last night after he returned from Mar-a-Lago, and he said none of that. But I will repeat to you what I said to your own Chris Wallace on Fox News Sunday around January 29th, 2017, which is that we were going to have joint custody of this country for 8 years, we being the White House and the media, and that we are duty-bound together to give the American people the truth and the facts that affect them. Not people curating and doing advocacy journalism, but give people news they can use. Give people information. Why do these veterans actually know everything that's available to them? And so what I told Chris Wallace then is not a single person in the media who got the 2016 elections so chronically and embarrassingly wrong lost their jobs. And they probably won't hear too. Look what they did to Brett Kavanaugh. The second most popular story in the Trump presidency was the Russian collusion fake hoax nonsense. The most covered stories I read last night in a condensed period of time was Brett Kavanaugh. And they treated him the same way. That was a microcosmatic version of what they tried to do to President Trump and his campaign and his family for the last 2 years. It's a drive-by. They abandon all standards, all personal ethics, all professional duty. Do you realize major papers in this country won Pulitzer Prizes over their reporting on something that is totally fake? Do you realize that another cable station, I mean, over 13,000 stories combined by 2 major print outlets and 2 major cable stations, not named Fox News. And as somebody who engages with those people as much as I can and tries to get out there, we basically were being told we were liars. I was the campaign manager busting my hump, as did my colleagues, for those last 3 months in 2016, building on the great work that Donald Trump, who won that election fairly and squarely, had done for a year and a half before that. And basically, when you're talking about collusion and talking to Russia and conspiracies and obstruction of justice for 2 years with no proof other than people leaking to you, or you just guffawing with the anchor next to you and the fake lawyers on TV and the journalists who are pretending to be lawyers for that moment, when you're calling us all, you're saying that we did not win fairly and squarely. You, in fact, running around, jutting your jaw out and saying, I'm worried about the effect on the institutions. You were disparaging the institutions. You were demeaning and deriding our great democracy, the presidency of the United States. Adam Schiff should resign. He has no right, as somebody who has been peddling a lie day after day after day, unchallenged and not under oath. Somebody should have put him under oath and said, you have evidence? Where is it? Because Bob Mueller already ran the fair and the full investigation. And any partisan, politicized investigation from here on in will never have the credibility of the Mueller investigation and the credibility of Attorney General Barr and Deputy Attorney General Rod Rosenstein, what they've done here.
Kellyanne, people who voted for him are really, many of them are very frustrated that this has gone on for so long. And then in the end, there was no collusion, yet Hillary Clinton got off scot-free. Kimberly Stossel had a fabulous editorial op-ed in the Wall Street Journal, and she said the FBI unleashed its powers on the presidential candidate. Rod Rosenstein even said he was alarmed by the bias against President Trump from Strzok and Page. The president yesterday said it is time to investigate the other side as well. If you're going to investigate me this way, you got to be fair and investigate the other side. What happens next?
Our democracy and the truth should bear nothing less. And those who have run around for 2 years thinking they can get this president, they can frog march him out of this White House, just did two things. One, they legitimized all calls for a full investigation of how we got to this place in the first place. Let's see everything that attended to the FISA warrant. Let's see all of the communications happening at the top levels of the FBI during the Obama administration and getting that, quote, insurance policy, deriding those Trump voters and the rest of us as filthy Walmart shoppers and all the other slights, all the snark and bark from the elitist intellectual snobs.
Well,
let's see it all. Let's let it all hang out. They did two things. They did that. And the other thing they've done is they've showed that that the Department of Justice and the FBI cured itself very quickly. What Mueller and Barr and Rosenstein and the rest of them here have done is a great service to our democracy. They repaired us because what was happening at the highest levels of the FBI was an absolute disgrace. And those who legitimized and gave Comey and McCabe, imbuing them this credibility, these great book tours, shame on them too, because Comey, we know, has lied under oath and he's a big leaker. Those leaks got us to where we are. The leaks and the accusations gave us the obstruction of justice nonsense.
Right. Kellyanne, we had Mike Huckabee on about 20 minutes ago, and he suggested, as we look at how this all started, he said, look, it happened on Barack Obama's watch, and he listed some names of people in the West Wing. So the big question is, how high does this go?
Well, let's see. We should see, shouldn't we? Because those who have called for a full and fair investigation, I must get the truth. We will not stop. Facts first. Have at it. We've got time. You have not stopped. You've not winced a single moment. You've not reflected or been reluctant to waste $25, $30 million of taxpayer dollars. 13 requests of foreign governments. Pen registers, subpoenas, 500 witnesses, all these subpoenas. Right. So, and you came up with nothing. No obstructive conduct, no collusion, no more indictments. And by the way, nobody named Trump or Kushner indicted, folks. And we were, people would whisper in our ears, look out, don't be in a meeting with them. Everybody's got a duck. I mean, what a bunch of nonsense. Right. And nobody will reflect because they listen to that. But let's let it all hang out. Let's see what happened with the FISA warrants, the phony dossier. Let's see what Hillary Clinton. Oh, why are you still talking about Hillary Clinton? Because, folks, you wouldn't let the 2016 election go.
Kellyanne?
And now you're running up against 2020, and you got a big old nothing. Beto O'Rourke 2 days ago said there's beyond a shadow of a doubt that the president colluded. What is he talking about? Right. There should be a reckoning. And because our democracy bears nothing less.
We don't know what counter he was standing on when he said that, but we'll look back.
Stop violating all types of federal and state health by standing on the counter. Go home and see your kids once in a while, Beto.
Kellyanne, look at your phone, because I think you got 3 text messages. It could be from your children during that appearance.
She got a lot of balls in the air. Kellyanne Conway, thanks so much. Kellyanne.
Joining us now, Senate Judiciary Committee Chairman, Senator Lindsey Graham. Senator, a lot of this falls now on your shoulders. I see you laughing, but
I've enjoyed listening.
Anything that you heard me say that's wrong?
No, I mean, we're not going to try these people on cable television. We're going to put it through the rule of law, right? That's what you want.
Whoa,
That's what it,
totally agree.
Yeah.
I believe in due process, the presumption of innocence.
Absolutely, and you've been consistent on that. Here's what I want to find out. Did they exonerate Clinton because they had a political bias? Did they ignore all the facts because if they indict her, they know she can't beat Trump and they wanted Trump to lose? Was the counterintelligence investigation a backdoor way of spying on Trump? There's real no evidence of working with Russia. They just used it as an excuse. Was the FISA warrant obtained unlawfully based on fraudulent documentation to surveil the campaign? Those are the things that I think you want to know about and I want to know about.
What will you do? Tell us the steps that you will take. You will play
Great question.
A very pivotal role here, sir.
First thing I want to do is find out why they got a warrant against Carter Page if the dossier was a bunch of garbage. What did you have beyond the dossier? Why didn't you listen to Bruce Orr? At the end of the day, how could you use this document that's unverified to this day to get a warrant on 4 different occasions? I want to find out all about that. I want to know if the email investigation was basically dropped because they had a political bias. I want to know if the counterintelligence investigation, why didn't you warn Trump that you thought the Russians were trying to infiltrate his campaign? Why didn't you tell him what you told Dianne Feinstein?
Right.
Well, so the reason I think they didn't tell him about the Russians infiltrating his campaign is that they wanted to infiltrate his campaign, not the Russians.
All right, Senator, I know that you have and by the way, there are a lot of good people that have been very helpful in all this, and Meadows and Jordan and Ratcliffe and all these people. You now have the ability to make public, and the president will have the ability to make public the FISA warrants, the 302s, the Gang of 8 information, and these other buckets, the 5 buckets I always talk about. How important is it that the American people see that besides the Mueller, conclusions?
I've been pretty consistent. I said I thought Mueller was the right guy to look into the allegations against President Trump. He was a man of the law. He had a great reputation. And I fought to make sure he could do his job. He has rendered his verdict. There is no collusion. Now it's time to look at how this got off the rails. So what am I going to do? I'm going to use every tool available to me, disclose as much as I can without compromising source and methods to make sure the public understands how their president could be accused of working with a foreign government when there's real no basis in fact. This should scare everybody. Did the investigators, did the prosecutors use the law for political purposes? If that turns out to be true, that is bigger than Watergate. Did they try to take him down after he got elected? Was there a real effort to invoke the 25th Amendment?
Looks like
it. I don't know, Sean, but nobody seems to give a damn but me and you and a few other people. If it had been Republicans hiring Steele to spy on Clinton and they used a dossier prepared by Steele against Clinton associates that was a bunch of political garbage, it'd be front page news everywhere.
Lies, Senator. Ironically, Russian lies.
I think so. I told Trump that. I think the dossier came from Russia. Mr. President, if you think the Russians are just out to help you, they're not. They're out to destroy America, and they're basically using both campaigns.
You really had a moment in the Kavanaugh case. A lot weighs on your investigation, and your pledge tonight is so important to getting to the truth so this never happens again, sir. Thank you for being with us.
Thank you.